Today, we are going to be going over some multi-use vehicles in GTA Online. First up is going to be the Toreador, and it costs $3.66 million, which is pretty expensive, but the vehicle is also pretty damn awesome. It's really fast, the boost recharges very quickly, and it can also turn into a submarine and use the boost underwater, making it the fastest vehicle that can travel underwater in GTA Online. It also handles really well, and as I said at the start, it's very fast, especially because that boost recharges so quickly. While you're driving around on land, you are going to be zooming around everywhere, and if you hit that boost right off the line, you are going to zoom all the way up to 100 miles per hour in no time. And of course, it is equipped with homing missiles and dual MG turrets, and underwater it has torpedoes, which of course can also lock on to targets. It's a pretty amazing vehicle on land and in water. Next up, we have the Insurgent Pickup, or the Insurgent Pickup Custom. This thing is an absolute tank, and I've loved it ever since it was released in GTA Online a long ass time ago. You guys could purchase the regular Insurgent for just under $900,000, and if you want the pickup version, you can get it for $1.35 million if you unlock the trade price, which honestly isn't too bad, and then you gotta pay a couple $100K to upgrade to the custom version, but this vehicle is very useful. And when it comes to driving through water, this thing just flies through it like there isn't anything in the way. Compared to a lot of other vehicles which slow down a lot, the Insurgents just plow right through it like it's nothing, which is awesome. It's one of the best vehicles in the game to drive through water with. Not only can you pile 9 people inside of this thing, it is one of the strongest vehicles in the game when it comes to absorbing missile impacts from anything. When this vehicle first came out with the Heists updates, it was incredible. If somebody pulled out a Rhino tank and then started shooting at you, you would just absorb the impact and then you'd be gone, because obviously the tank is so much slower. Back then, this was one of the most overpowered vehicles in the game, and it's still very useful to this day just because of how strong it is, and of course that massive turret on the top. But if you upgrade to the custom version, you get more armor, you could drop proximity mines, and the turret becomes even more powerful. Of course, there is also the Night Shark. It's another amazing vehicle, and it'll only set you back $1,245,000, which is significantly cheaper than the Insurgent Pickup. But of course, there are some key differences between these vehicles, like of course, you can't use the turret on the Insurgent unless you have a second person. But in the Night Shark, you could use those dual MG turrets that it has on the front of it. The Night Shark is also very strong and can withstand a bit more missile impacts than the Insurgent Pickup, which I think is pretty great. It's also a lot faster than the Insurgent, which is a huge benefit, because if you don't have a vehicle that has good speed in this game, then an oppressor is just going to pull up and just watch as you slowly die as it is spamming missiles right at you. But of course, even if an oppressor did that to you while you're driving the Night Shark, it wouldn't matter, because you could withstand every single missile that the Oppressor Mark II has in its cache. That's right, you could withstand over 20 homing missiles from that flying motorcycle. Of course, the Night Shark's dual MGs really aren't as powerful as the Insurgent Pickup Custom's turret. That thing is an absolute death machine, and it'll rip through practically anything. It's like 4 times more powerful than the Night Shark's dual MGs, but we all know those MGs aren't really powerful, and a lot of vehicles have them. If you're a solo player, I'd recommend using the Night Shark, but if you have one other person with you, pull out that Insurgent Pickup, and you're going to demolish everything. Another great thing about both of these vehicles, they both have tow hooks, so you guys could tow the anti-aircraft trailer or a boat trailer or some of the other trailers that you see around Los Santos, which is pretty cool. So if you guys grab your Night Shark or your Insurgent Pickup and you grab your anti-aircraft trailer and pop it on the back of that thing, you guys are going to be a pretty unstoppable force. But of course then you will need one other person to help you out, and if I had to pick, I'd rather take the Night Shark with the anti-aircraft trailer just because it handles a bit better, and of course it is much faster, which will help you a lot more in GTA Online. Both of these vehicles are amazing, and there is a ton of different uses for them. Next up, we have the Pyro, which is a fairly expensive plane, costing $4,455,000, but if you unlock the trade price, it'll cost you $3,350,000. It has a top speed of 204 miles per hour. This thing is one of the fastest planes in the game, and its acceleration is incredible. It can take off in a split second, and when you actually start to slow down in the air, this thing is like a glider. You can glide for a pretty far distance and just be kind of chilling in the air and land really slowly on practically any road that has enough space for you. And when it comes to dogfights, a lot of people prefer to use the Laser or the LF-22 Starling. I really don't prefer those vehicles. I would use the Pyro. Because of its speed, you can outrun practically all the homing missiles. With lasers, you're going to have to fly around in a circle and try to avoid them. With the Pyro, all you got to do is fly straight, and you will easily be able to outrun any homing missile that somebody shoots at you because this thing is so damn fast. And in terms of its handling and agility, I have to say it's a hit out of the park. It feels so light while you're flying it. People using a B-11 Strike Force or a Hydra or even an LF-22 Starling will have trouble following you because of how fast this thing is and how quickly it can turn around and be right behind you, shooting missiles directly at you. And of course, it does have an infinite amount of homing missiles on it, and it shoots them very, very quickly. I have to say, the Pyro is a pretty amazing plane. Next up, we have the Sparrow, costing you $1,815,000 plus, I believe, an extra 150 or 200k for the homing missiles. This vehicle is so damn useful, especially if you run the Cayo Perico heist a lot. You already know how useful it is, because when you're doing preps, instead of having to go back to land and grabbing your vehicle from there, you could just grab your Sparrow from right inside your submarine, and when you're delivering stuff, you could just land straight back on your submarine, and it'll instantly bring you inside. Plus, it's also very fast, very agile, and it has an infinite amount of missiles, and it could shoot them constantly. Since this helicopter is so fast, it can also outrun a ton of homing missiles. Even my friends behind me that were in Sparrows shooting homing missiles at me weren't able to actually hit me because the Sparrow is so damn fast it can outrun them no problem. Out of all the helicopters in GTA Online, this is the one that I use on a daily basis. Next up is going to be practically any of the contract DLC vehicles, and I mean pretty much any vehicle that has the remote control unit upgrade available for it or the homing missile jammer upgrade available for it. Personally for me, the remote control unit is kind of just fun, and it's a really fun way to troll griefers because, you know, you could just start remotely controlling your vehicle and driving around. Maybe you got to pick your friend up or something, and then an oppressor pulls up and blows you up, and they're wondering, why the hell didn't I kill the guy? And they're just super confused. And then you could just do it again and again and again and keep trolling these griefers until they stop griefing, hopefully. But then the homing missile jammer comes in, and this thing is so incredibly useful. As you guys can see here, I have a bunch of NPCs spawned shooting rockets at me. They're all using homing missiles, and they should be locking onto me, but because I have that homing missile jammer on the car, they're not going to be able to hit me. Plus, the car itself is pretty fast, and like I said, most of the contract DLC vehicles have this upgrade available for it. And while you're just driving around in free mode, it is extremely useful. It makes it extremely hard for griefers to try to kill you. And I have to say, this is one of the most useful things that Rockstar Games has added to GTA Online in a long time. And finally, we have the Hakucho Drag. I have to say, this is one of the most useful vehicles when it comes to doing time trials in GTA Online. This is the only vehicle I ever use for it, and if you play on PS5, you can upgrade it with HSW modifications, which is great because it makes it so much faster. But even if you don't have that and you play on PS4, using the regular Hakucho Drag is one of the best vehicles to use for time trials, and it allows you to make a couple extra $100,000 every single week when you play GTA Online. I have to say, that's pretty damn useful. Just before we end the video off, let's take a look at this video sponsor, Grand RP. Have you ever wanted to play GTA 5 as a police officer, or as a doctor, or as a gang member, or drive hundreds of different real cars? If so, check out Grand RP. One of the